to the 29th Hayley-Roxanna Crafts quick crochet video, where I share information, hints and tips on one area of crochet in a short video. In this video, I'm focusing on how to do double crochet ribbing in UK terms, or single crochet ribbing if you prefer US terms. I have used double crochet ribbing for the cuffs and the bottom and front on this cardigan. Ribbing creates a stretchy fabric of crocheted material. On this cardigan, which I can show you close up here, I have worked the ribbing perpendicular to the main body of the cardigan. So the main body is worked in rows this way, and the ribbing is worked out from there perpendicular to it. And this is how I'm going to demonstrate it, but you can work the ribbing on its own too. As I'm right-handed, these instructions are intended for right-handed crocheters. However, if you are a left-handed crocheter, you could use me as a mirror image so you reverse the hand positions and orientation. So before adding the ribbing, I always add 3 rows of double crochets in UK terms or single crochets in US terms to create a base for the ribbing. So that's these stitches just here that go all the way up and around the cardigan. I always start with the right side facing me to do these rows, so I'd start down here. So by the time I've done the 3 rows and turned for the last time, I've got the wrong side of the cardigan facing me. So I've got some crocheted rows of double crochet just to act as my base, just so I've got a smaller piece to work from to be able to demonstrate. After I have crocheted these base rows, I usually go down a hook size. So these have been crocheted using a 4.5mm hook, just in some DK yarn. But to do the ribbing, I've gone down to a 4mm hook. But the yarn that you're using and your hook size doesn't really matter. The process still remains the same. So to start the ribbing, with the wrong side facing me, because that's where I said I would be after I've done my 3 rows of double crochets, I will then chain. And the number of chains I need depends on how wide I want my ribbing to be. So quite often when I'm doing cuffs, I will chain 13 so that my ribbing is 12 stitches wide. For the bottom and the front, I often use a smaller amount, so maybe I chain like a 9, so I've got them about 8 wide. But how wide you'll want your ribbing is personal preference or down to the patterns that you're following. So I'm actually going to just do a 7 chain today. So we'll do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so it's a chain of 7. So this means that my ribbing is going to be 6 stitches wide. Okay, and then I just want to make a row of double crochets into this chain, starting in the 2nd chain from the hook. I'll start there and I will make my double crochets. And I will do this into 6 of the chains, so I will have 6 double crochets. 2. So there's our 6 completed double crochet stitches. And then the next step is you want to slip stitch back into those base stitches that you made on the main body of your work. And we don't want to go into this first stitch, we want to go into the second one. So you're just going to insert your hook and do a slip stitch. Like so. And that technically completes the first row of your ribbing. But before we turn our work, we then want to do another slip stitch into the next stitch along on that main body, that base double crochets that we've got, like so. Okay, and now we can turn our work ready to work back along this perpendicular bit for forming our ribbon. Now, when you're going back for your second row, we are going to be doing the double crochets just into the back loops, but you also want to make sure that you're not taking any notice of your slip stitches, and that we're only crocheting into the stitches that are making up our ribbon. So we've got 6 of them, and what I sometimes do is I will actually pop a stitch marker into that 6th one, just so I know where it is when I've turned my work. Or you can count back from the end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to make sure you know where it is. Okay, and then like I said, we're just going to do double crochets into the back loop only. So where you've got that V shape, you just want to go into the back loop to make your double crochets, like so. And we do that all the way along the row, right up to the outer edge again. So we'll just finish that off. Once you get to the outer edge of your ribbing again, we then turn to come back along. Now you can chain 1 before doing the first double crochet, or you might choose to leave that out. I personally chain 1, but I know some people prefer not to. And then you're going to do those double crochets into those back loops again, all the way back along, just for 6. Remember, we are only doing 6 on this, or however many stitches you're doing. So if your ribbing is 12 stitches wide, you would then do 12 double crochets back. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that. Okay, so once you have done the number of stitches that you need for the width of your ribbon, so 6 in this case, you've then got to do your slip stitches into the main body again. So you want to make sure that you are going into the next stitch along on your main body and not the one you've already used. And what I tend to do, just to make sure, is if you just pull your work like that, it's quite easy to see which stitch was the last one you used. And then you're just going to make your slip stitches into the next 2 stitches along that main body. 1, 2, and then you're turning, ready to come back up your work with your double crochets just into the back loops only. So that's the important thing to remember, you're only going into your back loops. And when you're on this side of the work, you don't do a chain 1, you just go straight into that back loop to start your stitches to come back up the ribbon. When you do your ribbon perpendicular to your work, ideally you want to finish with your last row of ribbing up on the outside edge to finish it off, or to fasten off. But if you find that you haven't got 2 stitches left to do your slip stitches into for the last time of slip stitching into the main body, what I do to sort of cheat this and get away with it is I will just go into the same stitch that I used the last time for the first slip stitch, and then I will slip stitch into the last stitch of the row, like so, before turning and coming back up the ribbon one more time into the back loop only with those single crochets, just to make my last row, so that when I finish, I'm up on this outer edge here to fasten off. If you want to make the ribbing without it being joined to anything, you just need to do these rows of double crocheting to create that ribbon. Alright, so you're doing the double crochets into the back loops only after you've done that foundation row, and that's the important thing to make it this sort of stretchy fabric. You only want to work into your back loops. and you wouldn't have to worry about doing any slip stitches into the main body of your piece of crochet before turning your work. If you have any questions about double crochet ribbing, please pop them in the comments, and in the next quick crochet video I will demonstrate front post, back post treble crochet ribbing.